Hello and welcome. In this video we are going to add some more functionality to our example website now that we have explored a little bit about some JavaScript basics. So this is what the sample website looks like at the moment. So what I'm trying to achieve here is incorporate an image changer. At the moment I've only got one image. I want to try and add another image so that when I click on this image here, it will change to another image. That's what I'm trying to achieve. So first of all, you need another image in your image folder. If you've only got the one image, make sure you add more. I've got a few images in my images folder here. Notice I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, but you only need another one just so that you can follow along with this example. So make sure you add another image to your images folder. You should have an images folder. So add another image. Make sure that the image is the same size. All the images has to be the same size if possible. I've already showed you earlier on in the course how to resize your image. So if you're not too sure, if you could refer to the video on that and just try and resize your images to be the same size. And once you've got the images, save it inside the same images folder. Any code you have in your JavaScript file at the moment, you can delete it. If you want to keep the one we've already done, it's up to you if you want to do that. But for me, I'm going to just delete what I currently have here. When you are using the brackets folder, anytime you make changes to your JavaScript file, it doesn't automatically reflect. As you can see here, you can see this dot next to the live preview is basically telling you you need to save whatever changes you've done. The only thing that basically changes automatically is your HTML and CSS. JavaScript, you have to save it first. And the way you identify that is by this little dot. So if I save this here, the title should change. I'm just going to click File and Save. You can see my title has now changed. I have added some bunch of code here to my JavaScript file. So I'm just going to explain the code to you line by line. If you notice here, we've got some errors here. JS lint has 10. These are not errors, they are warnings. So if it's yellow, it's warning. But if you notice here, I've got an error, which is saying document is not defined. This is basically because it doesn't recognize a document as a global variable. It thinks we're using something that's not being defined. So the way to get around that is just to put a comment. So you do a slash and the comment and just type in global followed by the word document and then an asterisk and then slash, and save that. Anytime you see a dot next to the live preview, means you have to save the changes you've made before it takes effect. You can see now that error has disappeared, but we've still got some warnings which we will address later. Anytime you have warnings does not stop your code from running. It just means there are some problems that it wants you to address. So we'll address them later. Let me walk you through the code first. Line 1, we've already covered line 1. So we've put a comment here, and inside the comment we've put global document, which makes it possible to access this document from anywhere within this page or this file here. Line 3, I have defined a variable called dog image, and I've set that to equals to the document.query selector. We touched on query selector briefly when we're exploring JavaScript. And the selector here is the image. So this is the target. So I'm using the img stands for image. I'm using the img element as the selector. Line 5, I've created this dog image here, this variable called dog image. I've attached an onClick property to it, and I have set that to equals to an anonymous function. Anonymous function basically is a function that hasn't got a name. It's a nameless function, and inside the anonymous function I've got my opening curly brace and my closing curly brace. In between the curly braces is the block of code that will execute based on the condition. So I am storing the reference to my img element in my variable, in this variable called dog image. That's where I'm storing all the reference to anything that's called img. So any img element is stored in this dog image variable. And I have set this variable here. I have set this variable's onClick handler property. Okay, this onClick is a handler. I've set that to equals to this anonymous function. So every time that the element is clicked, so this is the element, which is the image. Anytime the element is clicked, it will trigger the block of code inside it. So this is the condition it's checking for. On line 7 is saying if this variable called my images. On line 6 I defined another variable called my images, and I set that to equals to this dog image variable, and I attached a get attribute property to it. And the get attribute property I'm attaching to it is the source. Source basically means it will grab the image from the location you have stored it. Line 7, I'm saying if, notice I'm using triple equals to. When you use triple equals to, it will check the condition, both the in value and data type. So it's going to check if this variable called my images is strictly equals to the images, which is this images folder here I've got /poppy.jpg, which is this current image. If it's equals to that, so I'm saying that if it's equals to that, if this condition matches, then I am changing the attribute on this dog image variable. So I'm saying if this condition is true, change the image to this image here. So if I click on this now, it should change the image. It says change the image because this first condition is true. It now changes, it swaps the images over. Now it's saying if it is not true, which is where the else conditional statement comes in, then change the variable again to this. So what it's saying is that if I click on this, then this condition in the if block is no longer true, then it will now execute this code. So if I click on this, it will return the original image. So that's basically how I'm changing the images from this block of code.